When starting any new RPG, you have to build a character, and with that comes stats. And there are numerous ways to build the stats that you're going to use in your Dungeons & Dragons RPG. But how do you do it? Do you do point buy, standard array? Do you roll 46 and drop the lowest? Researching this, I found a lot of different ways to roll stats. Some of them a little crazy, but I thought I would highlight the ones that I like, and we can discuss what would be good for your future game. Hey everybody, Jordan here. The PH is silent. Normally I do D&D lore videos. This is a little different. I wanted to try something talking about rolling stats for Dungeons & Dragons. Do you even roll stats, or do you use point buy, do you use standard array to keep everything kind of fair and square? Is rolling more fun for you to have random characters? So let's talk about it. So over on the left here, I have a window open to Roll20, and we're going to roll some stats using Roll20 so that we can understand kind of the ability scores that we're getting. But this is D&D Beyond here, and this is the player's handbook, and it says determine ability scores. This is what we want. You generate your character's 6 ability scores randomly. Roll 4 6-sided dice and record the total of the highest 3 dice on a piece of scratch paper. Do this 5 more times so that you have 6 numbers, and if you want to save time or don't like the idea of randomly determining ability scores, you can use the following scores instead, which is 15, 14, 13, 12, 10, and 8. Now you take these 6 numbers and you plot them down wherever you want them. So if you are playing a wizard and you want high intelligence, you then take your high dice rolled number and put it in intelligence. There are some variant customizing ability scores. This is commonly known as point buy. So you start with 27 points and you start buying stats. 9 costs 1, to get to 10 it costs 2, 11, 3, etc. And these go up. So if you want a 15 in one of your stats, that's going to cost you 9 points of your 27. This is commonly how I've been doing characters lately. Seems like a lot of my groups want to have, we want to be able to min-max and kind of customize like that. I'm not really a min-maxer, but when you know going into the game that you can play a certain character type because of the point buy system, you like that. Now, rolling randomly would really change that up because I might go in saying I want to play a druid, but after looking at my stats, I really think I need to change to orc and do this instead and play a barbarian or something like that. So it's kind of interesting. Then, if you are not new to the channel, I will tell you that I am a big fan of the game. Let me show the front of it. Dungeon Crawl Classics. This is a retro clone of older D&D that has been kind of 3.5'd to make it run more smoothly. So Dungeon Crawl Classics is a big advocate of rolling 3d6 down the line in order. So you're going to roll 3d6 for each ability score listed below in the order of strength, agility, stamina, personality, intelligence, and luck. Now this leads for some lower powered characters, but Dungeon Crawl Classics is kind of about that. And when I first played Dungeon Crawl Classics, I did this. I ran the game and I made my players roll 3d6 down the line, and we came up with some really kind of like wonky characters. And going into the game, you would roll and say you wanted to be a cleric, but your personality score is like 7. Well, all of a sudden you look at your stats and you're like, I don't want to be a cleric anymore because I will be the worst cleric that is in Dungeon Crawl Classics. This is what spawned this video, is this next paragraph. Why are we so explicit in the declaration of ability score process? Because you are an experienced gamer and you know many other ways to determine ability scores. The open beta process revealed that ability score generation is the very first rule to be overridden by many players. This is your game. You should feel free to adapt it as you wish. We do encourage you to try to buck tradition and try at least one game using the precise method described here, which is 3d6 straight down the line. It's a blast from the past and something you probably haven't attempted in a decade or more. However, should you decide to house rule otherwise, we expect this to be the place that you begin. So we could play Dungeon Crawl Classics with 4d6 drop the lowest, which I think is the most common that a lot of people do because it is in the 5th edition player's handbook. But boy, there are so many different ways to roll stats. We're going to start with 3d6 and kind of see how that compares to 4d6 and other things like that. So I found a really cool website called AnyDice. So AnyDice here allows us to, I can say 1D, yep, I can write 1D20. My microphone's in the way. And then I hit calculate. This is gonna show me all the percentage chance of getting 1 through 20. And because it is 1D20, we have a 5% chance to get any number on that 20-sided die. Now, if I do, actually what would be better is 1D6. So we show 1D6, and I have a 16.6% chance to get any of those numbers. Now, if I change that to 2D6, we can see that all of a sudden I have a 16% chance to get 7, but I have a 2% chance to get 12. So going in with this, we can look at the bar charts here, and we can understand the different percentages, and you can get a feel for how powerful will my character be if I am rolling these particular stats. So starting off, 3D6. Now, this is standard Dungeon Crawl Classics. This is standard old school D&D, but we have a 12.5% chance here to get 10 and 11. So we started with 3D6 because you are basically just a regular adventurer. You're low level, you're all those things. For you to have an 18 in something is very, very rare. But also for you to have a 3 in something is very, very rare. So for the average, you're going to be around the 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, maybe 13 area. And that kind of makes for a generic adventure. Now, if we run that though, I have to look up my cheat sheet for... So if we go over here to this online dice roller that I found, we can go 3D6 strict. And I'm going to roll this a couple times. So we have 8, 12, 10, 8, 12, 11, totaling 61 points. Now, a lot of games want you to have all of your stats total in the 70s. So we're clearly playing like underpowered characters. But this could be a fun D&D game. If you start a game with a 16 or an 18 at level 1, you are a hero. But a lot of things, you're just kind of forcing a dungeon master to make DCs higher, I feel. So, I don't know, this is kind of interesting to have not necessarily underpowered characters, but just if everybody's on the same line, it can be a lot of fun. If we roll this again, all of a sudden I got a 73 this time. This is really good. So I got a 17 in one of my stats. So 3D6 strict down the line. This could be intelligence. I really want to be a wizard or something like that. Take a +1 intelligence racial feat. You're good. You're golden. You got an 18 starting it off. But let's look at 4D6. So a lot of people do 4D6 drop the lowest. And so for this, I have to put output with a highest 3 of 4D6 because we're going to drop the lowest. So let's calculate this. And boom. So we went from 9, 10, 11, 12 being kind of the highest ones that we're going to get to 15, 14, 13, 12, and 11. So these are really our good solid numbers here that we're going to be using. And if you just look at this curve in general, we have a much higher chance of getting this bottom area than we do any of these areas over here. Like the 3, 4, 5s are just pretty much gone. Still possible, but mostly gone. If we go back to our online dice roller, we can use 4D6 drop the lowest, and we'll roll that. And, you know, I got pretty good stats, but my total was 68. That was lower than the last one that I did. Roll again, got a 71. Now, these look more in line to the stats that you're usually going to see. You're going to start a character with like a 12 and maybe a 14. You might get lucky with a 16 or an 18. But yeah. Why is this the most common? Because I think Dungeons & Dragons is trying to be heroes. And heroes are going to be better than like regular peasants. So with 4D6 drop the lowest, you're going to have just more. Like you're not a regular peasant. You are a hero and you're playing a hero. Now with a friend of mine was saying that he does 5D6, drop the lowest 2, and then re-roll 1s. I can't re-roll 1s with this, but we can keep the highest 3 of 5D6 and kind of calculate that. And again, we're pushing away from the 3, 4, 5s. These are almost never going to happen. And you're just pushing that number up to these numbers specifically. Well, actually, you're going to be more like 13, 14, 15, 16. So we're just kind of bumping it up a little bit. He really likes to play this way. It makes for more powered, interesting characters. Again, depends on kind of game you want to play. Do you want everyone to be slightly more powerful, or are you on your way to godhood? And level 1, we're going to start with like a 20 in a stat, which is 5d6, 4d6 drop the lowest, 5d6 drop the lowest too, 3d6. All of this is fine, but are you doing that to run down the line, or are you signing it normally? Now, with other RPGs, I would just say, if you want to just play a random character, try it right down the line. It can be a lot of fun to see, I wasn't prepared to play a paladin, but with these stats, I think I need to be a paladin. However, introducing some of my friends to DCC, I realized that that is probably more fun for me, the Dungeon Master, than it is for some of my players who come to a table really wanting to play a rogue, and they don't have the stats to play a rogue. Obviously, you can play however you want. Taking your stats and putting them where you want them to be is, beneficial and fun. Now, there are some other ones that I think are kind of interesting. One of them is 3d6 down the line, but then you can swap 2 stats. So if I roll 3d6 all the way down the line, like let's go back to our online dice roller, we'll do 3d6 and we'll roll. I got a 15 in strength, but I got a 10 in here, and I got a 15 in wisdom, but I want my con to be 15. So I'm going to swap this 10 and this 15 to kind of get with that. That's actually a really good 3d6 roll. We should play this character. That's 76 points. That's right on the money. We should totally play this character. That's right on the money. But if you swap 2, I could swap my con and my wisdom to make my health higher, basically. That can be fun, especially with what race you choose and what you swap. There can be a lot of customization in there. I kind of like it. And you could obviously do 46 drop the lowest right down the line as well. I think if you're already doing 46 drop the lowest, you're probably going to assign your points where you want them. Now, this one is something that I haven't seen a ton, and I wanted to bring it up, which is, and I found this online, it's called the heroic character. So you do 2d6 plus 6. So everyone is base minimum 8. Highest, very high. So we go to oh, it doesn't like this. So if we calculate this, we're getting a kind of a standard array again, but you're really pushed in the 11 to 15 range. This is kind of where you're going to see most of your characters, and honestly, you're going to get the 12, 13, 14 range. I've never played this one before, but now that I've seen it, I think this would be my preferred way to go, specifically for D&D 5e. You have players that really want those powered characters in 5e. They want to feel like heroes, and this feels fun. You're also not going to get any stat lower than an 8. So you won't have those really random ones for like, oh, I got a 4 for my intelligence, and I can barely talk kind of a thing. This is my preferred method for D&D 5e. Also, and I'll talk about this a little later, but when you're playing a lot of random roles, then you always have that one player that's like super powerful, but the other guy rolled really bad and he's not as powerful. And so that guy kind of wants his character to just die off so he could like make one that is, contributing to the party. This negates that. 2d6 plus 6, most players are all going to be powered and also kind of around the same line. This one I like, which was 46 drop the lowest and then write it down the line, but you do that 6 times. And you put it into a grid. Okay, so I've got roll 46, and we're going to send that. So then I go over here to this grid that I've got, and we're going to put 14, 12, 13, 12, 13, 17. And we're going to do this 6 times. 12. So this was kind of an interesting idea that you are creating this 6x6 grid that I did here in Google Docs. Not a big thing. Pretty easy to do. But when you have this grid, and I'm looking at my notes to make sure I got this right. When you have this grid, you choose a row or a column. And so I could play this character, but I could also play this character. I like this. I've never generated stats like this, but you get a lot of options and you start picking and choosing. Like, I really like this 16. Ooh, 2 16s. But like, I don't like this 10. I don't know. Oh, but a 50. Actually, the more I think about it, I think this is your character right here. Like, that one's pretty good. But if you look at other 16s, like that's a couple 14s. This one wouldn't be necessarily bad. This one wouldn't be bad. That's got a 17 and a 15. So if you got a +1 and a +1 with your race, you're good. But do you really want to take that 8 and 9? Probably not. So as we look at it, it's like, I think this is the one that we want. But also maybe this one, but also maybe that one. So that can be kind of it's kind of interesting. I also like the idea of if you have a set amount of players, maybe you all roll this, like everybody rolls 1, you all put it into the grid, and then collectively you get to pick and choose, maybe draw lots of who gets first pick or something like that. And so you're all kind of mixing and matching the best way you can. So I could take this as a player, but nobody else could take this. But somebody could take this as a player, the sideways one, or etc. So you could reuse that 16, just not vertically anymore. So I don't know. It's called the 6x6 grid method, I think. There you go. Some other interesting stat generation that I saw online, but I have never seen anybody use, is 3d4 plus 5. If we calculate that, this is also, you're getting a lot of 12s and 13s, but this could be fun. Like, the majority of your stats will be 11, 12, 13, and 14. I kind of like this one. Another one was a variant on this, which was just 44 plus 4. Lots of 4s. And it's kind of the same thing, only you're pushing it into the 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 range, rather than just the 13, 14, 15 range. Yeah, I don't know. I've always used 6s. I think 6s are just the standard, but like it's kind of interesting. I like this. Another really weird one that I kind of like, and the stat generation is going to look silly here, but 1d8 plus 7. And so you have a 12% chance to get any number, but I like that. So your highest is 8, or the lowest you can get is 8, but the highest you can get is 15. So you're never going to get a 16 without a racial bonus. This could be interesting. And it is very across the board, 12% chance on everything. So your stats could look a little crazy. And actually, why don't we just try that once? So down here in the lower left, I've created 1d8 plus 7, and we're going to hit send. We're going to see what our stats are. We got a 14, 11, 9, 9, 11, and 10. That's not bad. I would play that character. I don't know. It could be a lot of fun. Not for everybody, obviously, but I'm looking at new and interesting ways to roll dice. So this next one we're going to open a notepad for because it's just kind of wonky. So I found this on our website, and again, I'll put all the links down below to this dice roller and a lot of other things that I thought was interesting. But this one particularly interests me, and we're going to roll a character together using this. But this is called the 3 up, 3 down method. And you are going to roll a d6, a d8, and a d10. So our d6, our d8 equals, and our d10 equals. So with this, let's roll. Let's just roll. So I'm not gonna lose that. I'm gonna roll 1d6 and roll 20 here, and good on us. We rolled a 6. Then we're gonna roll 1d8 and roll 20, and we rolled a 7. And then we're gonna roll 1d10, and we got another 7. Using this method, we're going to use those 3 numbers, that 6, 7, and 7, for all of our stats. And our stats are going to be as follow: 10 plus the d6. So this is going to be 10 plus 6, so our stat is 16. The next one is 15 minus the d6, which is going to be 15 minus 6 equals 9. Then we're going to do the d8s, and it's 10 plus the d8. So this is 10 plus 7, so our next stat is 17. And 15 minus the d8, which is 15 minus 7, I can read, which is 8. Then the next set of numbers kind of change. We have 8 plus the d10, which is going to be 8 plus, let's do 08 plus 7, and that is 15. And then we have 17 minus the d10, and that's going to be 17 minus 7, which equals 10. So our stats are right here. We got a 16, 9, 17, 8, 15, 10. Now, what does this do? This gives us a really high-low, or if you rolled kind of medium range, it gives us a just down-the-line medium. I want to run a game using this because I like the idea of swingy characters. If I'm really, really strong, then I'm not going to be very charismatic or something. Or if I'm really, really this, and you either have the middle of the line characters or you have the swingy characters. And if everybody's rolling this way, I like the idea of, even though I'm middle of the line, I'm probably still going to be better at most things, whereas this guy is only really good at hitting things. It could be fun. You could have a lot of characters like this. So let me know if you're going to use something like this, the 3 up and 3 down method. Again, links in the doobly-doo below. So what can you do with all of these different stats? It kind of depends on the game you want to play. I would say if you're doing like a dark, gritty game, maybe 3d6, talk to your players. Obviously, player buy-in is going to be a lot higher if they can pick the class they want and if they can kind of assign the stats that would help them succeed. Researching this and putting it out on the internet, I did a couple of polls and some various other stuff where I wanted people's information, like how do you roll this? Significantly, people did 46 drop the lowest, but I was surprised at the amount of people that did 46 drop the lowest, but if you don't like your stats, you can use standard array. Or if you don't like your stats, you can do point buy. So it was almost inevitable, like I'm gonna roll, but if I get that like 5, then I'm not gonna play this character. And to be honest, the more I thought about this, I was kind of sad because you want to play what you roll. That's the whole point of rolling dice. If we don't like the dice that we get and we don't want to play that character, then shouldn't you have just used point buy all along? But on the other side, I sympathize with those players because I don't want to play in a game where I'm completely useless. Everyone is, fireballs and landing their hits and doing all this other stuff, and the DM is making the game harder for those players, and now it's too hard for me. And my +1 to attack is not going to outshine their +5 to attack. Should you roll dice just to see how powerful you get? Should you stick with the dice you rolled? Or do a failsafe? I don't like my stats, I'm gonna do point buy. I don't like my stats, I'm gonna do standard array. I don't have an answer because I think it depends on the player and a lot of other things. It can be a lot of fun to play a player with bad stats, but I will say it's not fun in D&D. There are other role-playing games that handle bad stats better than Dungeons & Dragons. If you have poor stats in D&D, you just can't succeed and can't do stuff. If you have poor stats in other games, it's an interesting character choice that you can play off of. You can be the wise but dim-witted. You can be the intelligent but not strong. But in Dungeons & Dragons, you're just gonna fail that athletics check. You're gonna not be able to speak because your intelligence is 4 or lower. So I don't know how I feel. I like rolling for stats. I remember the first time I ever played D&D, we were discussing, do we roll for stats? Do we point buy? Because we were reading the rules. And the dungeon master that was running me through this is saying, I think we should roll for our stats because we bought dice. We need to use them. Like, why did we buy this? Why did we buy these dice if we're not going to like roll for a lot of this? And I agree with that. So rolling can really open up character options for you. You might look at those numbers and say, I was not thinking about playing a bard, but like that would be a really good bard. Let me know. Do you guys roll for stats? Do you use weird and unique stat rolling that I am not aware of? Do you always drop ones? Do you re-roll ones? Do you roll for health? That's a whole other completely different thing that we didn't talk about. In 5th edition D&D, do you roll for health as you are leveling up? Thank you guys so much for watching and listening to me ramble about stat generation. I hope you found this video interesting. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment below telling me all about your dice rolling adventures in stats. That was That was a sentence that I came up with on the top of my head. I have a Patreon. If you're interested, I have podcasts on that Patreon that are Dungeon Crawl Classics games, interviews with my friends about how they got into D&D, and also a Rod of 7 Parts game, which is my 5th edition D&D game that I am running live on Twitch. Thanks again so much for watching, guys. I would love to have you subscribe. If you are already subscribed, thank you so much. And I will see you all in the next video. Take care.